Good morning all, this is Mary Harper with the Florida Association for the Education of Young Children, Public Policy Chair, and want to bring you the latest legislative watch, Watch 7. We're moving quickly through the legislative session and it's time to give us an update from last week. As you all very much know, the Florida Association for the Education of Young Children engages in these weekly legislative watches in a continued effort to promote our public policy platform, which includes promotion of the quality of early childhood programs, the work, compensation, and professionalization of early childhood educators, and access and funding of statewide early childhood programs and systems. And of course, the intent of all of this is to protect our state's most valuable commodity, asset, and future, young children. This week we have quite a bit to report. I'm going to go through it as I normally do in our three areas. I'm going to start with promotion of quality early childhood programs. Remember that this includes things like state program assessment, developmentally appropriate curriculum, universal state standards, appropriate assessments, promotion of accreditation and gold seal, and appropriate ratios. I'm going to speak to several of these things, and then I'm going to end with reminding us about the promotion of quality early childhood programs. Several things have gotten a little bit of movement. Senate Bill 1034 and House Bill 803 talk about the Jumpstart Literacy Pilot Program. It is now placed on a special order calendar within the House, so we're seeing quite a bit of movement in the House. Basically, the Jumpstart Literacy Pilot Project requires that the Office of Early Learning within St. Lucia County will assist low-income and at-risk children in developing emergent literacy skills. So it's a pilot program that will promote literacy in that region. Senate Bill 150 and House Bill 461 for the deaf and hard of hearing children. The bill has passed as amended in the House, and we're seeing that in the Senate it has now moved to the Appropriations Subcommittee on Education, and it is citing that deaf and hard of hearing children's educational Bill of Rights, encouraging state agencies, institutions, and political subdivisions to develop recommendations concerning the language and communication needs of deaf and hard of hearing children. And it's meeting little resistance and continues to move in both the House and the Senate. Along the same vein of promotion of quality early childhood programs, I'm going to speak to two bills that are moving very rapidly through. They fall in both promotion of quality early childhood programs and increased access and funding to state early childhood education programs. I want you to keep in mind when I discuss those two bills that we will be specifically speaking a little bit to the gold seal and to curriculum universal standards and appropriate assessments. So I have had that bill in both places, and we continue to fluctuate because it falls under two categories. Our second area with which we focus for the Florida Association for the Education of Young Children is around professional development systems and supports for the early childhood professional practitioner. At this time, there is one bill, and it has had no movement since the start of legislative session. We don't anticipate it will, but just to refresh your memory around what we hope to have as standardized competencies, professional development and training registry, and professional development is alluded to in the next bill that I'm going to discuss in length. However, it is not doesn't directly tie to this one. Access to quality professional education experiences and a career ladder. And again, as I said, at this time there's no legislation surrounding that, so we'll continue to move on. Around increased access and funding to state early childhood education programs, we have two bills, and the reason they are put under here and not promotion of quality early childhood programs is because they directly speak to the voluntary pre-kindergarten program and the school readiness program. They've had significant impact and movement, and we're going to discuss them in depth as we move through. As you all recall, there was an early learning legislation House draft in the last vodcast, which was vodcast 5. It was just a draft, and it reflects some of Senate Bill 1722 and House Bill 5101. Well, that's changed. That bill is now officially legislation. Well, it's officially proposed legislation, rather. It is new House Bill 7165. It is early learning, and it is linked to Senate Bill 1722. If you recall, these were originally loosely tied together, and we're going to talk about each in their own right. Let's first talk about the House bill. It is now in the Appropriation Committee, so it has moved, like I said, quite quickly once its introduction. It moves the Office of Early Learning to the Florida Department of Education. It transfers many of the current law responsibilities and duties to the DOE related to VPK, and includes provisions for standardized provider agreements and monitoring tools for compliance, and provides accessible online information related to the division and coalition activities, as well as data on children and providers in the school readiness and VPK program. There were some notable amendments from the original draft that I discussed in length, and if you review your legislative watch, it breaks those areas down. One is it requires private pre-kindergarten providers to maintain a minimum level of liability insurance consistent with private preschool providers. It revises the duties of the Early Learning Advisory Council by requiring that the Advisory Council provide recommendations on the most effective and efficient use of funds. It prohibits the office and coalition from requiring providers to complete a pre-post assessment in the school readiness programs. This is notable because when we talk about when we talk about quality access to early childhood programs, we know that good pre-post assessments provide instructional data and information to guide instructors as they work with young children. So seeing this eliminated is something with which we'll continue to monitor. But I will note, and I will note it again, that in Senate Bill 1722, with which this bill is tied, still leaves in the language of pre-assessment and post-assessment. And again, that's just good early childhood, good educational practice to utilize pre-assessment data to guide your instructional momentum and then to assess how effective your instruction was with a post-assessment. Phases and caps of administrative expenditures, and that's related to coalition expenditures, requires toddlers and infants to receive language, reading, and music exposure to stimulate brain development. We know that is good developmentally appropriate practice, and now we see it coming into legislation. Lastly, it removes the requirement of national from the Gold Seal accrediting agencies. And this, of course, is something with which FLA UIC has a specific passion for. We are affiliated with a national organization that supports the research and development of early childhood educators and promoting child outcomes. And the national, in this case, often comes with rigor and a sense that you are being supported by advanced organizations that really spend a great deal of time worrying about the quality and care of young children. If we look now at the supporting legislation, the school readiness legislation, Senate Bill 1722 and House Bill 5101 were both school readiness, and they are now linked to House Bill 1765. The Senate bill, which we'll note is linked to Senate Bill 1765, does not eliminate the required pre-post assessment measures for school readiness. Now, we may see that change, but currently it's still in the language. We would love to see that when both the House and the Senate get together in discussing these bills as a final piece of legislation, that they rethink that pre-post piece, as it does maintain good instructional momentum for teachers. It provides them information, which helps them link to their instruction, which then guides the assessment of said instruction. And then the House bill that we saw before, 5101, is now laid on the table. And it will likely be replaced by House Bill 1765, which is more comprehensive and does reflect much more closely Senate Bill 1722. With that said, that's all we have today. We'll keep you posted on the House Bill 1765 and Senate Bill 1722 because they fall in two predominant areas of our public policy platform: increasing access and funding to state early childhood education programs and promotion of quality early learning programs. So we'll continue to keep you abreast of what we know. And we do want to say in closing that we're very pleased with the um, House bill and the Senate bill. We just would like to see national replaced, and we would love to see the remaining inclusion of the pre-post assessment. So with that said, we're very pleased with how the legislative session is continuing to move along and in the benefit of young children and families, and we'll keep you abreast next week. Thanks so much.